I don't know if this is working. It says I'm live. Is it live? I have no idea. No idea if this is working. Let's see. It says there's a question mark. Oh, okay. All right. I'm alive. Thank you so much, Max. Jeez, I feel every day of my 47 years on this planet. I feel it right there. All right, excellent. Thank you. And thanks for your patience, those of you that have stuck around. I thought I would try this. It seems to be a popular format, these live streams. And I realize after my last video that I put on, I was talking about being the new guy. And what is it like being the new guy? What did I do? And I realize now, based on some comments that were put in, that it was that I had talked about some of the challenges, but I didn't actually share what I did. And so that's not very useful. So I thought I would spend a couple minutes and just go through some of the things I did when Rick invited me to join the game with the two fine gentlemen that are here in my live chat. So thanks. I hope not to waste your time. Here's what I did. So I went to when I was approached by Rick with the possibility of joining his game. The first thing I asked him, and so I had a conversation just back and forth with him about what we were doing. My first question for him was, how do the other players know about this? Are they okay with it? What is there? So that was my first thing, is that I'm joining as the new guy. Are the other players going to be okay with that, especially ones that I haven't had any interaction with before? Do they know who I am? Do you need me to make introductions? Would it be helpful? Because I don't want to tread on anyone's toes. I want to be respectful of the fact that they've already been here. They've already been investing in the game. So that was really important to me to just make sure that the existing players are going to be okay with it. And I also made it clear, or I tried to make it clear to Rick, that I understand that this is not a long-term commitment. You're just giving me a chance to join without any obligation. I'm not expecting any. I want to make that clear to Rick, that I understand if I'm not a good fit, you're not going to hurt my feelings by just saying, look, you know what? Didn't work the way we thought it would. We don't want you to come back. And I wanted to give him that out. I think it's important to do that. When you're invited to an existing group, it's a bit of a risk for the game master to bring in a new person. I could be absolute garbage, or I could have a person, even if let's say I have some rudimentary skills, maybe there's just a personality conflict. Maybe me and, as much as we can get along online, in other formats, maybe when it comes to actually playing a game, Big Bad and I are just going to be at loggerheads the whole time. Like, we'll just be like, no, or Max and I, or something. It's hard to anticipate those kind of, because it's a social experiment, both. Because it's a social experience, it's hard to anticipate how those interpersonal interactions are going to play out. And I try to be malleable in that respect as much as I can, but I have my limits too. And I've been on some live streams where I'm like, you know what, I should not have come on this live. Nothing recently. Like, I was on one last night, and they were all really nice gentlemen on that stream. I really like that. But I've been on a few others, not too many, and I don't want to point any fingers, but I could tell pretty quickly, yeah, I'm not having, I'm straight up not having a good time with this. Maybe, and I went to the host of the one stream in particular and just apologized to him, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm sorry if I was abrasive, and I don't want to, be a problem on your stream. I found I had a bit of an issue with the guest that was another guest there, and I realized that it's all on me. It's not them. It's just I was not responding well. I found my back getting up a little bit. Definitely not you, Max. No, it was not you. This was a while ago. So at any rate, let's go back on what I did when I approached Rick. So that was the first thing. I was really sensitive to, or tried to be sensitive to, how the other players are going to react to this. Here I am, the FNG. What is it going to be like? The next thing I wanted to understand is I wanted to understand how he envisioned me coming into the game. So I wanted to understand the tone of the game, what kind of character he thought would be additive to the group as it is currently constituted. And so I wanted to understand the tone. He had a big advantage, Rick did, in that he could say, well, I've posted some sessions. Why don't you just go back and watch those sessions? I had watched the sessions already, but I appreciated the invitation to go back and watch them again to make sure I kind of understood. Okay, so there's some levity here for sure. It's kind of serious in parts. I'm watching very carefully the dynamic between the players. How are the players interacting with one another? Who is taking the lead? Who reacts first? And how do they react? And how do they react to one another? And then as I'm watching this, I watched them. The last session that he had put for his Castles and Crusades, I watched that a couple times, just again going over it, and each time I'll watch it one time and I'm just paying attention to what Max is doing, and then I'll watch it again and I just pay attention to what Big Bad's doing, and I'm watching this, and I'm also listening to how the cues that Rick is giving, so I can familiarize myself with how he is going to run his game, so that I can be ready for it, right? So I did that, and I think that's a really, if you're joining a new game, you want to make sure that you're creating a character that fits in with the tone of the game. Like if I come in there and I'm one of the hecklers from the Muppets, and they're running some kind of grim, gritty, and here I am, and I'm just, it just doesn't make sense that I would be there. And I wouldn't have, the problem, and one of the issues, I didn't mention this, and I meant to right at the get-go, is the issue of being the new guy and joining in is that I wasn't there for the session 0. I wasn't there when they decided what kind of game you're going to run. I wasn't there for that. So I have to essentially create that for myself, with the help of Rick, of course, before I launch into the game. I also asked Rick what are his expectations, like what are the game conventions that are being used. I reached out on the Discord that was created for the game, and nobody was there for session 0. None was made. Okay, well, good. And then I feel a little better about it. So I talked to the other players. I asked them, because I was noticing that 2 of the players in particular, and Rick, so we're all using the same kind of on-screen dice mechanic. So I looked into that, and okay, I'm supposed to try to send a link here in Discord. How do I do that? Okay, well, hold on one second. I'm just trying to. Okay, here I am. Okay, I can see that. Please bear with me just a moment. Okay, shareable link. Okay, so is that it? Oh no, he's probably looking for a different link. Okay, let me just see here. There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay, I'm learning. So back to what I was saying. So. I reached out to them because I noticed they were using a certain type of app for their dice rolls, and I wanted to understand what that was and what was involved in setting it up. Could I run that? And I tried as much as possible to imitate what they were already doing. So that involved installing a piece of software, working on a background that fit one of the what Big Bad was doing, because I really liked his backgrounds. I think you do an awesome job with the backgrounds and the character portraits. I actually really like the idea of having a character portrait there. Yeah, and Sophie's dice, I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface. I had fun. had fun designing my dice, and I'd go through, and I actually went as far as, okay, I look at my character sheet. I'll get to the character sheet in a second, but I looked at the character sheet and I say, okay, well, can I program in some of these attack rolls? At the end of the day, I decided to go away from that, because what Rick has done, which I'm not bright enough to do yet, he has a sword on the top of his, and his sword has a little space on the blade where you can see the result. Like it'll roll the dice, and you have this cool graphic. The graphics in Sophie's Dice, actually, they're pretty impressive. I'm impressed with it. And then he has this, so you can see the total there. It's already there. And I think the rest of us, what we're doing is we're just adding the result to what we roll. A little bit more on that. Please remind me of that. Rick, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, singing your praises, sir. So at any rate, I have to talk a little bit more about adding numbers to the dice, because I was doing it wrong the whole time. But that's gonna, I've got this here in my brief notes. It's just this, don't worry, this is the first one. This is what I'm talking about right now. And the so I made some mistakes with that, but so I reached out to the players. I tried to have a bit of a conversation with not that sword, Rick, the other sword. But so excellent. Let me just add. There we go.
Let me in.
He's in. Thank you so much for joining me, Sean. This is a real treat to have you on my first live stream ever. This is really exciting.
You've done this before, haven't you?
I've been on live streams, or I've crashed the party for others, but okay. I've never actually ran one. This will be the first live stream on my up and coming YouTube channel, whatever. It's just for fun.
So, how embarrassing for you.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all, Sean. So I was just going through the things I did before I joined Rick's game.
You have Sophie's Dice?
Yes, I do. I bought it, and
that's half the battle.
It's half the battle, and I'm impressed with it.
It's pretty cool.
I liked how I can customize the dice and make them look different things and different textures, and they look really good. I like also that if you're rolling multiple dice, it'll roll the dice, then it has this graphic where it'll pull them together and then enlarge them. And I like how it highlights the number that it has come up on the dice. I think it just looks really, really cool. I really like it. And it's with a little bit of help from others that were already using it, I was able to get the overlays correct so I can do it. And then it took a little bit of doing, but I like Sophie's Dice. I think it's good. It's one of those things like where because I use Fantasy Grounds more often than not, just for the dice roller and then rolling from the character sheet, those kind of things, because I'm not using it for maps anymore. But I think with Sophie's Dice, you could probably just
more visual
the VTT at all. It is more visual. Exactly. So I was just talking about reaching out to Rick and trying to get a handle on what Rick was looking for in his game. So I don't come into the game as this disruptive wrecking ball. I have a tendency to have a bit of a loud personality. So I want to tone it down so that I can read the room and not come in and disrupt everything. And here's this guy all of a sudden, I'm role playing a certain way and they're role playing a different way, or they're role playing at a different tone. So I had tried to reach out to the other players and get a handle on what they were doing. So that's what I did. And Rick was really good at giving me a bunch of information. So coming into the setting, and I now understand, because Max gave it away, so did Big Bad, that they didn't actually have a session 0. I thought they had a session 0. So I was trying to manufacture a session 0 for myself by just talking to Rick and the other players to get caught up, so to speak.
They didn't have a session 0.
I know. Hey, like that surprised me a little bit that they didn't have a session 0. What are they doing?
They just did an email. Here's my character. What's the story
maybe
about?
I don't know.
What time is the stream? I'm ready with my character. I'm ready for my close up.
3, like the whole group is essentially in my chat right now, and you can tell me how did you guys come up with your characters? And I do believe there's been at least one character death, or just someone that's no longer part of the group, or like, how did that work? Someone will, I don't know exactly how that works, but there has been some character changes, right? Anyway, so what I did is I asked Rick, because he's running Harn, and you're familiar with the Harn setting. I'm not familiar with it. Yeah. It's gone through different iterations, hasn't it? Or has it always been the same thing?
It's always been the same thing.
Oh, okay.
I think it got a remaster at some point after some anniversary issue, but basically the same system. The maps haven't changed.
The maps haven't changed?
No.
Like, so what I did...
The map is the game.
And I didn't realize this until too late. I hadn't reached out to Rick to get involved in the Discord that he had created for the game, where he had put the map and things like that. So I didn't actually see that until about 2 minutes before we started recording the game session, which I actually don't think was that big of a deal, because what he did share is this. And this is good, because when I talked to Rick, and he said, he was describing the characters that were there. And I thought, maybe I'll be a holy warrior. I'll be a cleric or something. And he mentioned this goddess of the harvest, Peony. I had no idea who that is. I tried to search it. I tried to Google it. Right?
No,
no, I don't get anything. Nothing at all. I'm like, oh no.
Harn is a closed snow.
Yeah.
It's a snow globe.
Right.
You're trapped in it.
There's
no ingoing. There's no outgoing.
Well, I was hoping that there'd be something like some kind of Wikipedia, Harn Wikipedia, but there's nothing. I couldn't find anything.
They want you to buy the game.
So I'm probably going to get like a copyright strike for even showing this. This is like, you're not even supposed to show these kind of things. But at any rate, this information was helpful, because Rick said, okay, you're going to be in the Western Realms, especially in this one area, and your faith is it's not allowed. So it's underground. And so I had to read up on the Marmalites, and I was just trying to think of, so he provided more information about, what it would be in the order. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm probably this traveling priest kind of thing. And so this was all really helpful, this information. And then I had I've never played Castles and Crusades. And as Max knows from my disastrous showing last night, I don't know a lot about OSR. And so what I know about the OSR is that it's old school, whatever that is. And that means that I thought your explanation actually was very helpful in your reaction video, where you said, look, OSR is, you were explaining, the biggest thing that I found that was helpful from your comments was that crunch and non-crunchy systems, it all has to do with how quickly a dice rolls are resolved. Am I paraphrasing that correctly? Like that, I think that's what you had said at one point.
If the die rolls are seamless, as in the players can just do the die rolls without stopping the game.
Right.
There's no crunch there.
Then there's no crunch. Right. So
you could have a crunchy game like GURPS, but just not use all the rules,
and then it would become less crunch, right? Like then it would be right. So
if it's your turn and you're supposed to roll dice, and you have to look to see what chart you're going to roll on and what the results are, and then make a decision, and you're holding up the game because you're reading a rule from the book, and then it's referencing me to this other book. So let me get my other book here.
Oh yeah.
Then you failed. You failed as a player. You failed as a human.
So I read up as much as Rick shared with me, and I'm glad that Rick didn't share the whole thing with me, because then it felt like I could put a spin on it, or we'll just discover it together, and as we go. So I had to familiarize myself with the character sheet, with the rules, class abilities, the spells that I'd have. And I read the combat section to try to understand what the mechanic was, but I didn't get that right. So afterwards, when we were talking about it after the session, it turned out that I wasn't adding the right things. But the nice thing about that is that Rick understands it. So what was happening is that Rick was just adjusting my results to be the proper result. So he didn't, and what I like about
if
that,
there's any confusion, wait till after the session and say, hey, what was I doing? Was it right? Or was I miserable? What was going on there?
Yeah. And he was good. Because what I thought was great was that he did not stop the game to say, okay, on your character sheet, that you did. I didn't get a tutorial on the finer details of Castles and Crusades.
No, you always wait till after the session to bring it up. In the meantime,
so he did that great.
You do quick rulings on the fly.
Yeah. And it worked well because I thought for sure, I failed. At one point I'm trying to hold back this undead creature. I'm holding up my bunch of wheat, my holy.
I liked how you were always grabbing dirt.
That's what, and that's what I wanted to talk about that. I thought it would be interesting to say, or just to imagine that if I'm I'm a cleric of the god of the harvest, maybe it'd be kind of fun if all of my, like I use dirt, soil, good, rich soil is the material component of my, when I invoke her name to help someone. So it's kind of, it's a little humorous because someone will have a bad wound, like a puncture wound, and I'm shoving dirt in it and saying, trust in the goddess, she'll heal you. Everyone else is like, is that sanitary? But I don't think Harn really has germ theory down yet. Like they probably don't.
Oh, it does. It does.
It does have germ theory.
The characters don't know about germs, but the GM does.
Yeah. So So I thought that would be interesting and fit in just to try to color it a little bit.
And I did try to watch a whole book on diseases and stuff.
Oh, it does? Okay. Yeah. It sounds
it's a setting. It's
so as a setting, what can you tell me about it? Like, is it something? Is it a more like if we were to try to classify it?
It's real life, but with magic is post scarcity.
Okay, so it's commonplace.
No. It's the opposite of common. It's
okay.
It's you have to really search high and low for magic.
Oh, okay.
And the people that use magic are far and wide. They're like,
okay, they're few and far between.
They're like the wizard in the castle, the monk in the church, the whatever in the whatever. Mm-hmm. They're not. There's no stores. There's no shops where you just buy magic stuff.
Right. So it's not the old magic shop where you can get your stuff. Yeah.
It's like you got to go to Tibet or Shangri-La for any magic, any herbs or things, make me young again. Oh, okay. That's going to be a journey. You're going to go halfway around the planet.
Yeah. So that I didn't know. And I still didn't know. Like I came across this situation. One of the characters, one of the player characters is an elf, and I don't know. I didn't think to ask. I probably should have asked this before we started playing, but I just assumed that it was the first elf that I had ever seen, and so I was like, I was going to play it like this is like I can't believe this is an elf. And then I thought,
elf.
How would a holy warrior of the goddess of the harvest, what would my natural response be to seeing this elf? Would I be horrified or mesmerized, or I just assumed I just made a judgment call. I just said, okay, it's the first one. It's for me. It's the first elf.
We've only played humans in Harn, so I don't know what elves are even like in the game.
See, and I don't know either. I didn't know either. I had no background information on it. I appreciated that Rick just let me run with that. Like he didn't.
No photographic evidence beforehand.
This is what he didn't say.
I want to say elves are not high elves. They're just elves. Like we remember them as kids.
Right.
Short and hiding in bushes and crap.
Well, see, and I don't like that's what I
know. They could be high elves like in Skyrim. They're super.
Yeah.
Hoity-toity. They talk.
Or are they elves more like,
millions of years old?
I think Pundit in his elves, you got to be careful about these elves. Like if there is an elf here, it's bad news. Like, be careful of the elf.
They live in a hollowed tree or under mushrooms,
right?
And they'll
Like
bite
they're
you.
the Keeblers. They're the Keebler elves, right? Like they make the cookies.
Well, they have sharp teeth.
Is that a Canadian thing? That might be a Canadian thing.
No.
Oh no, it's not. Unfortunately,
it's a General Mills or
it's a General Mills thing. So at any rate, yeah, and I thought Rick handled it really well, because I could have been wrong about that. I realized that I could have been wrong and assumed that elves were rare when they're commonplace. But he didn't jump in and say, well, actually, actually, Crispy, you're wrong. You grew up with elves. Elves are all of the priesthood of Peony is elvish. Like he didn't do any of that. He just kind of let me run with it, and I appreciate that, because I'm the new guy. Like, as the new guy, now I guess that leads me to one other thing I should say about being a new guy in a game. I think it's really important to listen more. It's always important to listen and read the room, try to riff off what other players are doing rather than immediately take the reins and run with it. I have a bit of a tendency to just take the reins, and it's a good practice as a new guy to just sit back and say, okay, well, maybe just, take your cues from everyone else, and then you'll be able to decide afterwards, is this something I can fit in with, or is this just not, is this an oil and water thing?
But at the same time, you have to show off your chops that you can role play.
Well, that's the other thing too.
Wallflower or something.
This is a bit of a challenge that I have with online live games, is that there is, and it actually is helpful. It's a challenge, but it's helpful to know that this is being recorded, and it'll be on the internet.
Don't think about it
forever.
And like, this is being recorded.
This is being recorded too.
I don't think that this is being recorded. I'm just looking at you. I'm not paying attention. Oh my God, there's like 3 people watching us right now. Kind of
3 people. That's pretty good. No, there's 4. Holy smokes. It's crazy.
But I don't have an issue with, streaming a game, live or not live, or being at a table in one room together. To me, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you have good mic and good camera.
Yeah.
Because we're all sitting at tables right now, right?
That's right. We are. Yeah.
All 2 of us. And we all have dice. We all have a mouse pad, presumably, to just throw dice on.
Yep.
So it's as if we're sitting at a table together.
Mm-hmm. And then just play at the table. Yeah.
And you follow each other's cues. Don't take your eye off the screen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't know if someone's getting ready to do something or say something.
Yeah.
Or whose turn. Everyone's looking at you. It's your turn, kind of a thing.
It's your turn. What's going on? Yeah.
But if your camera's off and you're away from keyboard during the game or not paying attention, then you're just wasting people's times.
Yeah. If you're alt-tabbed into something else, then I actually,
and they're also going to say stuff like, "Oh, I've been in online games," and they're just not. They don't compare it all to the real thing.
No.
Well, at the real thing, what are you doing? You're at someone's house at their table and you're on your phone.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the difference?
What's the difference? Yeah. It's I have one of my actual players in the chat too. Boston John, I see you there.
Uh-oh.
DeCaneville, he's one of my actual players. So he has all the dirt. I guess he could blackmail me by saying, you know what, I actually am in this guy's game. I'll be in his house tomorrow. So if anyone wants to hit up and get like the straight, what is the expression? The straight poop on what's going on with me in my actual game, you could talk to Caneville. He'll tell you all about it.
I think it's called Scoop.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was thinking of I think it was a SpongeBob episode or something.
But but in Harn with the elves, I want to say everything's segregated by cultures.
Okay. That makes sense to me though. Like,
you're not going to find metropolitan, cosmopolitan cities in Harn where everyone's perfectly mixed by race.
Mm-hmm.
The humans stay with themselves. The elves stay with themselves. Once in a blue moon, they meet up with each other and they attack.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
it's like you're on our land.
Exactly. Like
we've been here for thousands of years. Well, we can't live for thousands of years, so go away. You go away. We've been here for that's squabbles.
Yeah.
The king of the elves, king of the humans, they have to negotiate something, a truce. But because there's a common thing, something else, something bigger than themselves is happening in town. They have to partner up temporarily to fight the evil.
You see, that's part of why I decided that this, for me at least, it made more sense that this other PC would be the first elf I'd ever met, because when I was paying attention to their games, and it was clear, yeah, this is at least the last one, which I watched a few times. Everyone was human. Most of what they were running into in terms of other people, they were human, like other NPCs that were in the world that Rick was running. They're human too. And so to me, it's like, okay, it sounds pretty rare. So that's what, but again, it was really nice that Rick gave me that kind of leeway, because it was a bit of a risk. So what
is your favorite medieval style movie?
My favorite medieval movie, I guess I'd say that the one I've watched the most is the Peter Jackson films, the Lord of the Rings, the extended ones.
Okay.
I've watched those the
most.
Imagine
that setting, but with just humans in it.
With just humans. Makes sense.
And you're not traveling across the world. You're staying put in your small town.
Right.
Very rarely do you go traveling somewhere. There's plenty of work for you to do, chores to do. Where are you going? Stay home with Uncle Ben or Uncle Owen.
Uncle Owen, stay home. Yeah. I think it sounded interesting. I wish I knew more about it, but then on the other hand, I liked not knowing the setting beforehand, because then it all felt kind of new, and it was fun to have that kind of exposure. It's all novel, so there was that novelty aspect that I thought was good.
Even if you did know, you would only know one town.
Yes, that's right.
And Harn is a world.
Right. So I just have that tiny little corner.
You would just know Ontario, but some suburb of Ontario.
And not even just all of Ontario. It'll be like this suburb of, whatever it is, Sudbury, Ontario, right? Just a tiny, and even then it's only between these blocks and these blocks. So it's
the farthest you will travel is maybe 100 miles before your character dies of some
horrible, dysentery. You've got cholera. So it's all just Oregon Trail. Yep.
I mean, it's like the Britannica Encyclopedia, and there's so much of it, and you just throw a dart and say, okay, we're gonna start here. This is where the game starts and ends here.
Exactly.
But you can go on YouTube, and there's a guy who has a Harn map behind him.
Oh, okay.
On his wall.
Okay.
And the whole entire wall is Harn, and there's like he's talking about how he's going to do a 30-year campaign so his players could visit all the locations.
There's some guy in Toronto. I read about this in one of the papers. He's been running the same game for like 3 or 4 decades, and it's that kind of thing where he's in the same world. He's done it's just this crazy long game, and what was interesting is that. And I take a little bit of exception to the title of the article, because it was like, this is the world's best Dungeons and Dragons game, or like the most epic Dungeons and Dragons game. And
I think I saw something.
Have you saw something like that? And so he has he has everything kind of 3D modeled out, like an old style sand table, like a war gamer's table. He moves all of the miniatures around. If you die in that campaign, you're out of the group. Like, it's not like you make a new character, you're just done. And
what?
Yeah, I think so. And now they may have misquoted that part, because I was like, but it's yeah. So like, Sly Blue Demon, you saw that video too. Do you know what I'm talking about? What do you thinking? Like, am I remembering that correctly? You saw the video, and they had this video of this guy, and he's he's devoted like his entire half of his house, if not more, to this one game that he's been running for like 40 years, I want to say. Like it was crazy.
I don't know. I think it's a myth.
Oh yeah. That's what it was. Sly Blue. Yeah, thank you. He said, I guess, how do I highlight something? Do I show this? What did I click on that? Yeah, okay, there we go. So he said that if your character doesn't have an heir, then or like a hireling or retainer or something, and then you have to play the next of kin, essentially, is what it was.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I've done that.
I think it was wild. It was wild.
You play the character that finds your dead husk in a dungeon.
Yeah. Something like that.
And you're like, oh, I wonder what happened to this guy. His head's missing. Oh, wow.
There's something that happened. I'm going to show this here. Yeah, so you can still play the campaign. Yeah, that's right. I think that's what it was. And John, Boston John, you probably are the one that sent me that. So I wanted to ask about this. So in the game, there's a NPC or a GMPC that's a what's her name? Doesn't really matter. She's this bombshell druidess, is what she is, and she has this one spell that we saw a picture of her. She's gorgeous. I mean, it's AI, but it's a gorgeous woman, and she produces on command these good berries. Xenia, thank you. And she produces these good berries. Now she's a fellow worshiper of the goddess here, but I was trying to think about this. Like, what would it be interesting if me as like an officially sanctioned member of the priesthood takes a dim view over the abuse of good berries. Good berries are, from what I understand, is that they're a magical food she could produce that basically act like methamphetamines, keep you running. You don't have to sleep or something, or they take care of all of your
all magic healing potions are that.
Yes, yeah. And so, but they're not that. I don't have access to it. So I was wondering if there'd be like a priesthood versus the druid aspect of it, maybe a bit of rivalry. I think I'd go like, stop eating those berries. They'll rot out your teeth, or they'll make you go blind, or if you have too many of them, you'll turn into one.
In Star Trek, it was her tears, Jim? Did you touch her tears? That kind of thing. You get obsessed or possessed, or
So yeah, it's funny.
You can't concentrate during battle.
Well, yeah, but they're like, the players are. I think it's great. I'm not against it, but I think it's hilarious how they're like, just have this. Oh, we haven't. Max's character has now gone for I don't know how many days without sleeping, because whenever he's like, oh, I'm going to go sleep, then everyone else is like, oh, we're going to go over here and do this other thing, and then we get into trouble, and he has to get woken up to come and save us, and so he's like running on empty, and it's like, no, just have one of these good berries. The good berries, it sounds like speedballs is what it sounds like. It sounds like just take this.
It's going to do fatigue or encumbrance
eventually, right? Like
something you're going to crash and burn eventually.
And so like where the cliffhanger from our last session is that we see this, there's some kind of ransacking of a city, and we're coming up on it. So there's fighting at the city gates, and that's where the camera faded to black right there. But these guys haven't slept for like, I don't know, 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that. When was the last
time your character slept?
I guess it would have been, I'd be going on 24 hours, because I'm still brand new in this. Like, I'm still brand new. Actually, I'd be almost fully rested.
I wasn't paying attention to the stars in the sky. Was there daylight or nighttime mentioned in the game? It
started at night, and then I think... And then we went through the night, and then in the day we didn't sleep or anything. Did
you set up camp anywhere?
I was in the camp. I started in the camp looking after the elf who was sick.
Oh, that's right.
That's how it started.
Now have to. Was it Hank's character that was sick?
Yeah. Spencer. Yeah, Spencer is the player. It was his character that was sick
he missed. Was his name Hank?
He's Hank the elf. Yeah.
Who named him Hank?
I don't know.
Hank is not a word. Hank is not a word.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Hank. I mean, hold on. I'm not giving him
maybe his
credit.
name is Hank Fred.
His name is not Hank. It's Hank. Oh, come on. Where is it? It was one of these comments up here. I'm trying to find it.
Or Hank is his nickname?
Hank is the nickname because his name is like this really long multi-syllable name, which Boston John will tell you that I don't allow multi-syllable names in my game because I have a hard time pronouncing them quickly. So it's in there somewhere. I can't find it, but it's in there somewhere. Rick said it. I can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, it's Hank the elf.
But during the camp, you have to have a campfire. You have to.
Oh, of course. Oh,
because that's when the characters get to know each other, and the GM or somebody could relay some lore dumping or info dumping.
That actually is a good idea
to get players caught up if they've been role playing for an hour in a haze. In a fog of war, and they need some clarity before they wake up the next day.
Yeah. What would be helpful for me as a new player is if we did have that kind of campfire session, then I can ask in character the other characters to say, well, what's your story? Like, why are you here? And of course, I'm doing that so I can know how better to sell them my religion because I'm the cleric, and
you have to know what angle to.
I got to know the angle. Where's the opening here? So. Well, there it is. There. So thank you so much, Rick. Here's his name. Hankel. Yeah. See, I would not allow that. Like Boston John will tell you, that name right away banned from my table. I like short.
That's not a
names.
Word. It's not a word.
I just have a hard time with like. You think
you got three cultures in that name there.
The problem I have with this is the TC combination. That I'm going to struggle with that. Like that sound, you have the two consonants back to back. I'm going to have a hard time with those. Okay. So
I would say the T. I would say both those T's are silent.
Know. Yes.
if it's Elven, they don't pronounce their T's if they're Elven. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it would be helpful. We had a little bit. We did a little bit while we were traveling, and I was trying, but I think I could use some more. Just as the new guy, if they would indulge me, so if we could see that. So there was not all of the episodes have been aired. I know Rick has put some of them up, but he hasn't put all of them up. And he's probably chopping them up into more consumable pieces
when I watch
video.
them, I assume they're live at the time.
It wasn't live. It was recorded, but not live. It went up almost right away, but it wasn't live. I don't think so. Rick, am I remember that? I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So, what do I want to know? I want to know why you don't worship the goddess. That's what I want to know. What's wrong with you? Like, why are you a heretic? Please. So
now, did all of you guys have pictures of your NPCs?
Not everyone. Well, Rick had it. Rick had the two main. There was two main NPCs that we had. The one was the druidess, Xenia. Zen. Come on. Why am I so bad at names? Boston John's just laughing himself silly right now because he knows exactly. There it is, Xenia. And then the other one was the actual chief priestess of Peony in the area. So like my boss. So she and we had pictures of her too. And then I had a picture of my guy. It just so happened I used AI for my prompt to get my character portrait. And it just so happened that it gave my character a little bit of a punch. And I was like, you know what? I'm going with it. I'm just going to run with it. And it turns out later in the game, I'm trying to climb this cart to hopefully heal someone who's fighting off these zombies. And I'm playing it as I'm a little overweight. Like I can't, well, maybe a little more than a little overweight. And so I'm struggling to pull myself up and I roll bad. And Rick is letting us describe failures if we want to describe failures. And so I'm talking about how I'm sweating profusely, or I'm struggling to get up. And so then Big Bad jumps in and tries to boost me up. He rolls terrible. So we just go with it that I'm just way too heavy to I'm not a climber. I'm thinking of myself as one of like the, you've ever seen Russell Crowe's Robin Hood? Did you see? Yeah. Do you remember the friar in that?
No.
Okay, so I can't remember the name of the actress or actor. He's kind of he's a British guy. I think he's played in what other? He's anyway. So
is he the guy from the Indiana Jones movies?
No, I think he's younger than. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, you've seen Knight's Tale?
No.
It's with Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I have it.
You have
My
it?
mom says, you haven't seen that movie yet? I'm like, no.
So it's the guy that is in it is he's kind of one of the squires of the pretend knight, and he's kind of a husky guy, and so that's what I was picturing.
Would probably recognize
him. You'd probably recognize him. I'm sure. If I really wanted to, I'm sure I could find a picture of him. But that's what I was picturing, is that kind of.
But that's your character. Yeah. You're saying that's your character.
Yeah, with a full head of hair that he's unreasonably proud about and is thinning rapidly. Yeah. And I tried to think of that character though. Like, so it was the kind of man of the people, but he also really loves to eat, and he indulges a little bit, even though he knows he shouldn't. So that's it. Just turned out that we had this humorous thing where I tried to climb, and obviously climbing is not my forte.
Just wait till you go to a town in Harn where there's a famine going on.
Oh yeah. And I could just like they're warning me, and I'm almost purposely disregarding the warning. And this is something that I wouldn't necessarily recommend for a new player. I may be doing this just because I feel some camaraderie with Rick and Max and Big Bad. So I feel quite comfortable with them. Spencer's new to me. He seems like a nice guy. So I feel I feel, what was I going to say about that? I'm disregarding their warnings about, hey, if you keep up this peony worship stuff, they're gonna lock you in a cage and then let the crows eat out your eyeballs. And I just keep like whistling past the graveyard on that. Like I'm just yeah. So
on the plus side, if they see you with a gut, they'll think you're nobility or someone higher up, a rich dude.
Some rich guy.
You could afford food while they're starving to death.
Yeah.
So you're like somebody important. So you could use that as an advantage.
See, and I didn't know that about Harn. I didn't know like Harn, the default condition is, starving and, on the point of death.
It's muckery. It's the plague.
It's like drudgery.
It's the 1340s.
Oh, okay. So I have some.
It's like either it's coming or they just got over it.
Mm-hmm.
The population got thinned out. 70% is gone now.
Oh, okay. So it's after some massive die-off.
It could be like that.
Yeah.
People are deadly serious. They don't. It's not Pleasantville everywhere you go.
So yeah. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Like, what would you recommend with your experience? What would you recommend to someone that's coming fresh into an ongoing game, like someone that's just new, just coming in brand new, like I was?
So like brand new, like you don't know the players, you
don't know the players, system, don't know the game system. Like this, it's like a
don't know how they role play,
right? You don't can't.
You don't know if they even have decent mics or cameras. There's no social contract. You had no social contract.
Grandma, right? Thanks for joining us. So I think they knew me. I guess they knew me a little bit. They said, okay, well, Rick and I had played in a game and with Big Bad, so he kind of could see what I was like, and so they had sort of vetted me. But
so you're not totally in the dark. You're not completely in the dark.
I'm not completely. They're not completely in the dark, and I'm not completely in the dark. But it's still, there's still some complexities about joining a game that's already in progress. So
this is what you do. You watch their repeats,
and
then you're caught up. Sort of.
I tried. I did. I think Oh, I've got another comment there. Just found my channel and really, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for stopping by. So, yeah, it was, I didn't want to be disruptive. Like I didn't want to come in with the big personality and, fight for
hog the spotlight.
Hog the spotlight. And, I just didn't want to be that.
You're doing all the fight scenes. You're doing all the thieving. You're picking all the locks.
Yeah,
you're checking for traps.
I'm doing all the things,
and you're doing all the things. Yeah. I have a horse. I have a I have a familiar. I have a girlfriend.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me tell you about that.
All this extra stuff I brought with me.
So Rick told me that before I started, because again, I'm having this conversation with Rick behind the scenes. Okay. What kind of equipment do you want me to have? And I think it's important I gave Rick, obviously he has veto on everything. So I said, here's what I've got when I went through and I populated the character sheet and I sent it back to him and said, please tell me if there's any mistakes, or if you don't like anything, just let me know and I'll be happy to change it. So one of the things, though, that I was really nervous about, because I don't want to be accused of being some kind of Monty Hall gamer, he said to me, you have 200 gold pieces to spend. Well, I went through the equipment section and I'm like, I could basically buy one of everything here. Like this is it seems like a lot of money. And maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe you meant 200 silver. But that's the issue. That's the issue. It is that as I went through, because Rick said to me, he said, look, the only warning he gave me was that don't expect to be able to buy anything. So like if you think you're going to need it, make sure it's on the character sheet.
There's no Walmarts in Harn.
And Amazon doesn't deliver to Harn, evidently. So no. I went through the equipment section and I went through I tried to spend most of my money, but even then I was going way above the encumbrance value. So then I discovered this little piece on the equipment thing. It's like, oh, I can buy a donkey. And so I'm like, I'm going to buy a donkey because then I can just load up. But then I'm thinking, am I cheating here? So I went back to Rick and said, Rick, take a look at all of this. Here's all. And I was trying to be fair about it. So, okay, well, how would he carry it? Well, I've got to have things in bags,
Cheating would be buying a genie.
Yeah, exactly. But so I was like, I'm going to have a donkey and I'm going to name the donkey and I'm going to give the donkey a personality. And Rick's like, is this going to be like a Shrek thing? And I was like, no, it won't be a Shrek thing. I promise. A Shrek thing in Harn would probably be horrifying, the stuff of nightmares. But I thought it would be.
Are you feeding the thing?
And I had that too. So I'm like, okay, so then I have to buy feed.
It will die.
It'll die if I don't feed it. And then if I don't feed it, then I've got all my stuff on it. And I'm trying to, when I was going through the equipment list and deciding how to kit out this cleric of Peony, I'm thinking of, well, this is some kind of, what's it called? I'll just add this back in because it was something that I saw here. Yeah, a mendicant priest. So this is the priest that goes from farm to farm, talking to the families and giving them pointers on how to have a better crop so that they're not all starving to death, and healing those. And yeah, they just need to get good berries, right? Just take this will all be good.
Yeah.
It's in the end, good berries are made of people.
So
right? Like
in the movies, if your character was in a movie, what equipment would the character have?
Well, and that's what I was thinking. If I was this traveling kind of helper, underground priest, because this is a guerrilla religion here. It's outlawed. And I'm just going around. So I'd have to have the equipment that you'd expect of a day laborer, like the handyman, the traveling, I don't know, jack of all trades. So I'm buying things like shovels. And
you're the preacher in town that Clint Eastwood has his eye on.
Yeah. But I have to, so I was like, I gotta have a donkey. And so so I was really, really concerned that I had overdone it. And now I stayed well within my money, even buying the donkey.
Now, what about fight skills? Are you a crazed monk that can do all the acrobatics?
Yeah, no, I'm not that kind tricks? Of. No, this was another challenge too, because
Luke.
in one of the things, I'm going to put this back up here just to make people dizzy. In one of the things
you're just this regular guy, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was a little concerned about, because it mentions in one of these pages, and I can't remember exactly where it is. Doesn't matter, but it's in one of these pages.
The reason why I asked is when you join a new group, your character has to pair with the other characters.
Exactly. So that's what I did when I rewatched his last session, Rick's last session, is I rewatched it multiple times, and each time I just paid attention to one character. So what is this one character doing? How are they fighting? So I knew that Hank the elf had a big axe, and he has terrible luck when he rolls the dice because he misses a lot. And I knew that the big bad, he was the swordsman, right? And I knew that Max's thief, he did a lot of ranged fighting, so he was more of their ranged fighter. So
were they winning or losing most of the time?
Well, it seemed it was hard to tell, and the reason why it was hard to tell was because they had some additional help. So they had the druidess; she was able to do some stuff, and then in one of their quests, they were out. They had to. It was interesting because first they had to get a plant, this carnivorous plant, and the reason for to get the carnivorous plant was so that they could use the plant to trap a griffin. So the griffin would be, grounded so they can actually dispatch it, because they were trying to kill the griffin. And so they had someone who had hired them. I wasn't entirely, I'm sure that it was in there and I'm just not remembering it. But there was this other person, not the druidess, another guy there that was also quite competent. Like he seemed pretty good at fighting. So when I made my cleric, first of all, and I'm not one to make long backstories, but I had to come up with some plausible reason why me, a man of the cloth, would know how to fight. Like if this isn't a warrior, and Peony doesn't really have a warrior, from what I could read, from what Rick shared with me, she's not a militant faith. Oh yeah, that's her, Arok the hunter. Rick just shared what the name of that guy was I was talking about. So what I thought, there is something in the background. So I'm kind of have to read between the lines a little bit with this. And oh yeah, Arok didn't fight. Okay, yeah, so I got that completely wrong. At any rate, what I saw was that while she's not militant, Peony followers are often taken from those that had bad backgrounds. So like these are the repentant souls that had lived a life of wickedness, crime, and violence, and then have a coming to Peony moment where they abandon that previous lifestyle and take up her cause. And so my thought was, well, maybe I was a highwayman. I was just a bandit on the road, and all I would have as a bandit would probably be maybe a club. And so I went with that. But now, of course, I have a little more than that. And then the other thing I thought, well, I'd have to work for my living before, if I was a bandit or what have you. So I just went with a hammer is what I went with, because I felt like, well, it's not like it's an unskilled weapon. I'm sure that Tyler would be in here telling me, no, it's the hammer is exceptionally difficult to use. And he'd probably be right. So I just went with a hammer.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the flat kind, or the round.
Yeah, that's right. So
the round one is good for hitting skulls with.
The ball peen, yeah. Smack them out. So that's what I was like, I want to be useful in combat, especially since we have Max playing a thief. And so I thought, me, I'm the big guy. I'm big and round, essentially. I want to draw the attention, the focus of the bad guys, so that our thief can go around and sneak in behind and do his work. And we tried that. I think we were coming into that a little bit at the end, and I hope that we're going to get that synergy more, but more in the role play side too. Because then it's like, I'm trying to role play the combat, because I think that that's much more dynamic, and we did okay. I think we did okay. Rick's doing a great job, so he's eager to do more role play regardless of what we're doing. So yeah, he's doing a good job. He's taking a step back is what he tells me. And I think that it's good because it encourages us to step forward. And,
the GM just listens to
what's going on. He's doing a good job. He really is.
And makes judgments on how difficult something got mentioned actually will be to try.
Yeah, he just steps back. And so, yeah.
And then he's got his NPCs trying to murder you guys.
He does. It does seem that way too. He does seem that way.
So it's not like he's just slacking off or anything.
I only have one session under my belt with this group, and I am still very much the new guy. But we had some good interactions. Like Max and I had some interactions, all of this in character, which I think is really good, where I was trying to be like, oh, we got to think of the family behind the cow. Don't just think of the cow. There's a family there, and we don't want to see suffering of that family. And so I'm one of the things that I'm doing is I'm busy trying to give away my money to the downtrodden, the less fortunate. And anyway, we'll see how that goes. Basically, I'm going to run out of money really quickly. Is how that's going to play out.
Run out of money.
But that I'm not supposed to be rich. I'm the.
You're not supposed to. Well, it depends. You could be rich.
Yeah, I could be. I've got the belly for it. I got the belly for it.
But you should be just eating bread, porridge.
Well, and I have
soup.
I have a tendency. I don't know if this is a strength or a weakness. It's probably both at the same time.
Can your character cook?
Oh yes, in fact, a lot of the equipment I bought was cooking stuff. Yeah.
Make squirrel or rabbit stew.
What I was going to say is, and Boston John, if you're still in the chat, you can talk about this. I have a tendency to really wax poetic when it comes to food. And maybe it's just because I like food so much myself. But I remember one time we were having a role play session, and this was back before my my exploration into trying to be a better role player. But I was talking about how these were the best buns of the city, and how the smell of the buns, and it's early morning, and there's people queuing up to get these freshly baked buns, and they're sweet and crusty, and you break it open, there's steam that it escapes, and it just, so I'm trying to get everyone's mouth watering at the table, right? So I have plans if it presents itself. I mean, I'm not going to try to manufacture this, but if it does present itself, I think it would be fun to do that. Is to try to have that as a quirk of my new character. So yeah. GM Cody's here. GM Cody, for those that don't know, is an absolutely phenomenal role player. I aspire to role play like he did in that introductory Star Trek thing that Bear did. When you remember the one we all watched it together, and it was when they were all in character, pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
And it was he was playing the Doctor, I believe.
That was their session 0.
That was their session 0. I want to have that every session.
Everyone does. Everyone wants.
I think that would be awesome. and he does. Now I don't know anything about GM Cody, but GM Cody sounds like he's from, his character at least sounds like he was from the Deep South, and he had this great thick Southern accent that us Northerners just envy. I just envy that accent. And so he had this
Mark Twain voice.
Yeah, it was great. It was like Old Man River type thing. It was just it was so good. And I'm so I really do aspire for that to that level of role play.
Did you hear him in the Old School Essentials game he ran?
No.
He played a witch NPC for a bit.
No, really?
That was pretty good.
And I'd like to hear. I'll have to find that. I'll have to find that.
Even the Raven was doing pretty well as an NPC.
See, I want to have that in every session. I want that for like those, even in sessions where there's combat. Like I want to have that level of role play. That now I'm not. And
combat's tricky though,
because combat becomes tricky because there's a mechanic aspect of
it. Die. You're rolling a luck die.
Exactly. And even if you're not rolling a luck die,
playing really cool, and then you roll the luck die. It's like,
yeah, exactly. That's why I think it's probably a good idea to instead of saying like you try, it's all tries. I think you've mentioned this in some of your videos.
I don't know if you can try
because you're try using it.
You're using a luck die.
You're
hoping. You're hoping. You're not trying. You're hoping.
I agree with you because I'm struggling. I am struggling a bit with the percentile based.
I wish to murder you.
Yeah. So
at some point,
anyway, it was great, and I'd like to see more of that in my own group. I'm encouraging that. Boston John, who's in the chat still, he can tell you, as much as I praise GM Cody, and I am not an accent guy. I just can't. I don't do voices. I try.
I'm not a performer. I can't perform.
I can perform in it. Like I do a fair amount of public speaking, but I can't do the accents. I wish I could. I try it, but it's just bad.
I don't have the booming, sexy, ruggedly handsome voice.
Well, I can imitate a female voice a little bit just by raising the pitch of my voice. I can lower it a little bit. I can get gravelly a little bit. But what I'm talking about is like the actual accents. Like if someone say like, I want a British accent, well, forget it. I'm just not going to be able to do it. My daughter is so good at it.
I can mimic the Beatles. That's it. Because they're from Liverpool. That's all. That's, when I met George Harrison, I got to imitate him for a second or two.
See, I've tried this, Big Bad. Like I've tried. I need to do more of it, but I need to practice. I need to anyway. Oh yeah. So I need to talk about this if I could. This is fun too. I can see why people like live streams. So I once played this guy, and I was trying to describe this absolute seedy, dockside bar, and it was so gross. And I'm describing the floorboards rotten. There's scurrying little rats and other critters that you don't want to pay attention to on the corners. And the bartender had either lice or scabies or something. So the whole time that I'm talking to the group, and this may be something that was when I was just starting to think, you know what, we need to do more role play. This is the issue. I would just start scratching as every time I was talking.
You have a mannerism.
And I would like, so this is kind of just and pretty soon the whole table is like, dude, stop. It was so good. I loved it.
The bed bugs it was
bad, but it was that moment where like, and I know it's kind of a silly example, but the maybe there is a lesson to take away from that. And that if you can get that kind of reaction and players are feeling that kind of reaction, then they are picturing themselves in some way. They're there. They're in the bar. They're talking to the guy. They're worried that they're going to have to check each other for lice afterwards. Like they're having that moment, as brief as it may have been. So, at any rate, it's and the
players need to bring that too to the table with their characters.
They do, absolutely.
Their little habits that they have.
And I appreciate GM Cody's comment here because I think you're right. I don't think you have to do voices to be a good role player. It's nice if you can and you can do it well, but if it's just going to be like when I do it, it's not well, and it almost gets in the way. It becomes a distraction. Like there's some things that it's just not effective. I think if you can do them well, like GM Cody can, and I don't know what kind of repertoire he has, maybe it's just the one voice, but it's done so well that it just seems like he's not trying at it. When I do it, it's like, oh, this guy's a tryhard. Like this is not,
I won't do voices, but I'll just talk differently, like how you say.
Yeah, I will do that.
How you say, or well. I'll say that before I say anything, and the character, the players know which NPC's talking.
I did that the other week, and Boston John can tell you if it worked or not. They had a fixer NPC, or I had a fixer character, the one that was finding the job for them, or had a job that she needed done. and I was playing her as a in like this femme fatale kind of really, really very wealthy looking. And she had this habit where she would have a long, slender, cigarette on one of those, what are those, cigarette holders or something? I think that's, the ones that they would, in the 40s and the 30s, women would use these. They would be the long stick. And
well, they used them until Jackie Kennedy showed up.
Oh, right. Okay.
That was the end of that.
That was the end of that. So it was, I had, what I was doing is I just grabbed a fresh pencil and I was just kind of twirling, I was just holding that in the very feminine, and I always had that. So when I was talking, I would have that in hand more often than not. So it was a visual cue that here's who's talking. Instead of putting up her picture, I don't know. I don't think did I have a picture of her? I don't think I even had a picture of her. I described her, but I think they all probably pictured her a little differently. But there was
the guy at the desk, and he's got the pen, and he's always clicking it. He's always clicking it. He's like, you left off your maiden name here, and the character's like, oh, Jones, Smith.
I like that.
Okay,
that's something that I can do.
Always have something in your hand.
That's right.
So when they come back to that character, they know who they're talking to.
I used I like how you say it, Chat GPT. How do you say it?
I say Chat Jippity.
Jippity, yeah. So I used Chat GPT, and I created a list of tics. Like these are what we're talking about, because although I'm not very good at doing accents, I can do some different voices, but I'm not an accent thing. But what I can do is I can do a tick. So like gently tapping the lips, or, tugging at a collar, or whatever it is, nervously running my hands through my hair, what's left of it, scratching my hair, biting the nails. I try to give every character that I have one or two of these ticks, because then it's a cue. Yeah. So like, okay, yeah, this is the guy. So like I can do that. And I may be accused of trying to act or something, but the idea is that there's something that it's a cue for the players to know. Okay, yeah, this is the one.
You're just being a caricature. You're trying to be some sort of caricature.
So like one, maybe he's always sniffing. He's always wiping his nose.
There's an actual YouTuber. He's always doing that with his nose, always, constantly.
Yeah, just
it drives me nuts. Nuts.
And I will do things like that. Those like I'll show you my list here, so you can kind of see that.
Oh man,
yeah.
So perfect penmanship.
Oh yeah. Well, no, this was this is a printout. But I did this just so that I would have something on the fly. So I think that the tics and flaws, someone that's always humming or they're whistling or something.
Or when they talk, their eyes move.
Yeah.
Back and forth, kind of slow.
Or they don't ever look at you in the face.
Fast,
They can't hold eye contact, or they're always kicking at something, or they've got a restless.
The tongue.
They're like, yeah. So I'll do those kind of things, and I will.
Can you do
like
the
RPG
thing?
says?
Can you do the thing with your wig? Can you do this trick?
You could adjust the. Yeah, absolutely. I won't often, but sometimes if I have a character that wears a hat, I'll have a hat on, just kind of, or I'll pretend I have a hat on and do that. So those kind of things, they're just minor, but they really help to, okay, yeah, this is that guy. I remember that guy, the guy that was always adjusting his watch. Like he's always playing with this.
Yeah, he's always looking at his watch.
He's always looking on his watch, like he's busy, or, maybe he chews gum loudly.
Or he's on his phone. He's on his phone the whole time he's talking to you, just not even looking at you.
Or even I like verbal tics. Like I can do verbal tics. So maybe I repeat the same phrase all the time. So I'll say something in other words and actually, in other words and actually, in other words and actually. It's something.
Know what I mean?
Know what I mean? I'll do those kind of things. I find
What's it to you?
Yeah, you got me. Yeah. So I'll do, and it sounds, as I say it now, I just cringe. Ugh. But when I'm playing a character, having those things helps the players, because they're okay. Yeah, this guy. I remember this guy. I remember this is. It's it's a bit of a memory tool for the players. It's a memory tool for me too, because it helps me get back into the character. I liked how
you did the computer voice. Oh, that horror game you did
when I was playing. Yeah, the mother,
the ship. Yeah, that was cool.
What I was trying to do, it didn't come through all the way, but what I was trying to do is I was trying to have that kind of Cole or that computerized voice, but becoming gradually more lifelike as the computer went insane.
Yeah, the thing was changing.
Yeah. So it was changing, and it was now starting to be more familiar instead of the cold kind of corporate. This is the way that the interface, the GUI. So the GUI is changing.
It was more personalized.
Yeah, it's becoming more personalized. It's starting to talk to them. It's starting to say their first names. It's starting to, and I don't know how much of that came through. I think that there's with a lot of this, you have to exaggerate it, right? Like RPG Karama says. I think you're right. It has to be exaggerated to have it be maybe more memorable.
Can you crack your knuckles?
Yeah.
Some characters crack their knuckles.
So they'll be cracking their knuckles and they'll be doing this, absolutely. Or if I can't crack my neck on.
They get all fancy and start doing this.
Yeah, you could start doing I've seen guys do that.
What is that about?
What is that? And I mentioned this in another stream I was in recently, where my current focus as a player is, and as a game master as well, is I want to be able to be flexible enough on my role playing that my characters don't all resemble themselves too closely. Like, I don't want this cleric I'm playing in Rick's game to have a personality that's just too adjacent to my other characters, right? So I don't want those characters.
You don't want to be the guy who says, "Welcome to Costco. I love you."
Well,
and you say that no matter where you're at.
Exactly. And like, oh, so this is what he does. This is how Crispy interacts with NPCs. So just get ready for it, because it's always going to be the same thing. And
how may I help you?
Exactly. So I want there to be a distinct enough personality shift that I'm not. It's easily recognizable that this is something. I want to show a broader range.
NPCs you've already prepared that you're talking about?
Oh, this is talking about my characters that I play. Like, so
your actual characters,
my actual
NPCs?
Not the NPCs. The NPCs I can create very quickly with just what I do with that is I have, again, this is a different list, but this is just a list of personality traits. So I'll just roll a couple of these and say, okay, this is the personality. And then I'll also roll a couple flaws, like they're overly critical or they're.
Well, how are you with NPCs though when you're running a game?
So when I'm running a game, I'm actually okay with NPCs having different NPCs. I seem to be okay with.
You've done Weird West, right?
I have done Weird West.
So yes. I'm assuming you've done the tentacle General Mills store owner. Or the fish-eyed guy.
I will be canceled out of YouTube if I share even half of the NPCs that I created in that. I'm sure your
NPCs are in a Weird West game. I'm sure your NPCs are different.
They're different.
In each store, each
store is different.
Building has a different NPC.
And they were fairly different, I would say. Again, I'd have to defer to what my actual player would say. Like
in Star Trek, all the NPCs are the same in Star Trek. They just have a different alien mask that they're wearing.
They're a slightly different body paint. Yeah.
They all talk perfect English, and they all stand amazing. Like a human. They all wear human clothes. They just have a weird face. That's all.
they have slightly different makeup prosthetic things on their forehead, right? And just slightly different.
Because I treat NPCs, because I was a game master learning how to do this, I had NPCs I was role playing. So I had lots of practice with characters. So when I do a actual player in a game, I'm just treating it like it's just another character. Because in my book, I mentioned that all the things.
Everyone should read it. It's good.
I don't use the term NPC.
No.
They're all player character. They're all characters.
They're all characters.
Even the monsters are characters. The ship is a character. The alien is a character. Everything's a character.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you think of it that way, it's easier to just be super flexible no matter what station you're sitting at in the RPG layout of your game session. You can handle any chair at your table you can handle.
I just want to make sure that I don't become lazy in the fact that I have this one character type and I just play that character type every time I get a chance to play. And I don't want to be that. I want there to be sufficient variety that when someone sees this on the screen, they don't know before they watch any of it how I'm going to be. They have to watch it to see how I'm playing. Not, okay, well, I know he's this kind of guy. He's got this kind of sense of humor. He's got this, because I've seen him play in other games.
He always tells this joke.
He
has the same sense of humor.
He draws from this, this realm of pop culture.
He always picks the bow instead.
He always has the bow.
Firearm.
He's, I don't want to be that. I want it to be a surprise.
He's always 6 feet tall.
He's always 6 feet tall and handsome, or an orphan, or he's always has a tragic backstory, or he's, I want it to be. I want it to be a surprise. I want it to be every time I'm in a game, it's different enough that people are surprised. Oh, he's playing this now, or he's not playing the same thing. That's what I was getting at. I have to respond to Big Bad here. Everyone at the table in Rick's game has been super welcoming, very, very patient, very good with me. It's been a phenomenal experience. And I have to say that in every one of the online games that I've been a part of, the both the hosts and the other players have been easy to get along with. It's been fine. And so I've been very, very fortunate in that regard. Very
no drama mamas.
No, it's been really nice. Now I'm on a bit of a hot streak right now, because I don't expect it'll always be that way, but it has been really good. Well, so yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
playing, you're playing with people that you're familiar with already, sort of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That helps.
You're not.
That helps.
You're not going in blind, totally.
Not totally blind. Now, I may in the future have that opportunity, and it'll be an interesting challenge. Especially since the longer I stay in this path of trying to be a better role player, the more I find myself moving away from other styles of play. Like I'm just not interested at all. Like I really want just the.
Yeah, you're like William Shatner in The Outer Limits when he comes back from Venus or whatever. He's always freezing cold. He has to start a fire. It's the middle of summer and he's still freezing cold. He has to, his wife catches him crawling into the oven, to stay warm. And they find out that he's mutating. He's becoming like one of those people that lives on Venus that is used to 900 degrees.
Right.
And eventually they have to put him in a kiln.
Just to stay alive.
Or he'll freeze. He'll freeze if he's below 900 degrees,
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you're morphing. That's definitely what's going on with you.
So I feel that that's what's happening too. I think that's what's happening, and I'm embracing it. I think it's a good thing, but it will inevitably bring me into a situation where I'm in a game where it's just not like the advantage I have in Rick's game is that everyone in that game has the same. I would say has the same. Now it's expressed in different ways, but we all have the same goal. Like we all want to be in character. We want to role play this. We want it to be a role playing game. And yeah, that makes it a lot easier. Rick's really good at it too, because he's going to be in character. He's going to make sure we're in character.
There's little tweaks I do, like, who gets to narrate failures and successes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, depending on the mood or the tone or the theme, some players want to relay their own information on how they're going crazy instead of the GM saying, okay, this is what's happening to your character now.
Yeah.
Like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to die with grace.
That's been a huge improvement in our game and I haven't dictated to the players. I asked them, do you want to narrate your successes or your failures? And Boston John and the others, they all said, so I call him Boston John, but he's Decaneville in chat. So they say, well, we'll take the failures, you take the successes. And at first I was really worried about that. Though, are they going to just, oh, well, everything is just barely amiss. Like,
everything's coming up roses.
Still. It's all so good. I fell off the cliff, fine. But as I'm falling, the truck with the mattresses is just riding by, and I landed. But that's not at all what has happened. If anything, they are more creative on their failures, more than I would be, and that's freed up some mental capital.
Honest role play, honest dialogue,
and they've and what I think they're doing now, as the trust between player and game master improves, and I think we've got good capital, good trust between each other already. They're willing to go even a little further than I would go, because they're expecting that's going to be, I don't even know if they're expecting anything. They're just willing to take that risk. So like, I get tossed around the room.
I always want spoilers before I join someone's one shot. I'll say, are there going to be more failed rolls or more success rolls? And then I'll give you my answer, what I want to narrate.
What I want. So it's and we've had really good success with that. So I think that's been a great change. And when I watch other games and how they're playing, I don't see that. I don't think that's very widespread. I think that's usually what I see, is that the game master narrates both, that we could get both the failures and the successes. But my concern with that is that it doesn't foster greater creativity and imagination from the players. All of it is behind the DM screen and is just being told. And so my concern is that passivity.
Break it up in parts. Like the dungeon master gets to narrate how you get wounded, but instead of saying, "Oh, you can feel your rib cage crushing and you're losing HP as you're feeling inside your ribs, and you can feel your own heart beating in your hand,"
Yeah.
Instead of saying that to the player, the GM is supposed to just say, well, not in my world, the GM is supposed to just say what their NPC does, which is stab. My NPC stabs you in the chest. My weapon goes through, your chest cavity and is going out your back. That's all I would say. Now the player gets to say, "Oh, what have you've ended me," or something. So both sides get to say something.
That's right. What we've experimented with is that if players are narrating failures, then they narrate my failure too. So like if they fail and they narrate the failure of their attempt, if I fail, they narrate the failure of my attempt. Yeah. And that's been an interesting experiment. So
there's little tweaks and knob things you can turn and adjust.
We keep adjusting, and we see we're still experimenting.
After a while, you just do it without even thinking.
Yeah, it's good.
I try to have the players narrate what their characters do, and I try to get the GMs to narrate what their characters do.
Yes,
there's no bleed over.
Yeah.
Like I pushed you off the cliff, and you're falling off the cliff, and you're screaming and yelling before you hit the ground, and then that's when the nuke goes off underneath you to make sure you're blasted back up onto the cliff as a skeleton or something. It's like, hey, wait a minute, I didn't do all that. That's overdoing it, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
I only get to narrate what I do.
Yep.
To something, and then they get to narrate what they're trying to not avoid, but make the best of it, of the situation. You finished me.
When you were talking, it made me think of some advice that I've been trying to internalize more, which is when I'm giving a description, when I'm in the kind of camera mode, I'm not saying you. And just take just that small change. Like again, you mentioned just little tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
That small change of me consciously trying to avoid the expression "you" when I'm making a narration or a description, and I'm trying to make these descriptions punchy and short. Not saying you helps, because then
I use you in dialogue.
Like, in dialogue,
I'm gonna murder you.
Oh, of course. NPCs say you all
the
time.
You're dead.
Absolutely.
But it's just me wishing.
But if it's a camera, like if I'm using a camera, the camera never says you. The camera just says what's there. And just what the camera is looking at. That's it. It doesn't say you see. It just I just omit that. I mean, it's kind of implied, but I'm not actually saying it. And it's just a little tweak I'm experimenting with, but I've actually found it quite helpful to think that way, because it keeps me from interfering with players.
And after my character says that, he just casually pulls out his knife and slits your wrist. That's the only you I'll say. That's the only euphemism I'll use. Now I'll say you as in, okay, so you guys are in the tavern. That's it. Yeah. I don't say what they're doing. I just say they're in the tavern. Practice, get people jumping the gun early on in the game. You guys are in a tavern. Or, okay, you guys are outside. That's all I say. And
then from there,
they get to say all this stuff. I don't say what they're doing. I'll say you, like, the game starts with you guys are all on the bridge of the Enterprise. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
they get to choose. They get to choose what their roles are, where they get to sit, and what they say to each other. I'm just saying where they're at.
Well,
I'm not going to tell them where they move. I'm not going to tell them what they say, what they do. So that's the only time
I'm trying that.
You.
Like that's one of the things I'm trying. But I should wrap up. I got to go eat.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still.
And you've got to go eat some pizza, and I do have to go eat.
I have pizza already.
It's a favorite food for sure. But I want to thank all of you that are in on this live stream. I'm really, this is my very first one. I appreciate all the comments. I see them all here. I don't know the best practice for going through comments. I do really appreciate you sticking around and make that. You just click on them.
Just click on each one.
And so
until you're all caught up with everything.
So I guess I need to catch up on all these. I do appreciate you doing this. It's good. All of these. I think I went back too far. Yeah. So Boston John remembers the buns. It was it was a little overboard because the whole party just wanted to stick it around the bakery for a while and eat these buns. They're all convinced they're the best buns they've ever had.
Hot cross buns.
Oh yeah, and they're guilty as charged, Rick. Absolutely. Yeah. So it was lots of yeah. That was the lice comment. Yeah, there's just lots of good interaction here. I can see why people like this. I need to be a little better at keeping up with chat, I guess. But yeah, good point. Good point. There's Max, you speak very well. Don't be too hard on yourself. Your English is very, very good, and your vocabulary is better than most English speakers. Yeah. Well, I feel like we've probably gone through this already so much that this is probably not the best time of year. Well, here we go, Boston John wrapping it up here. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. That's good.
Crispy.
Yes, sir.
Before you end the stream, there's one thing you have to learn about StreamYard, and that is showing each person's name tag at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, now how do I do that? I have to. Oh, I'll figure it out.
Go to brand.
Go to brand, and then change so that. Oh, that's right. I need to do that. Show.
There's like some blue toggle switches that say show the name and show the nickname or something.
And that's on comments, or is that how? Like, I'll have to. Rick comments. Is really. He helps me out with this. I'll ask him to. Tell
One of the icons on this side.
Oh, display names and headlines. Okay.
Yeah. Make sure those are both on.
Show headlines. Is that show display names? Why am I not?
Hopefully, your porn name isn't there. And when you remove the bottom quote here, it'll show our names.
Oh, okay. And it's not showing that either, is it? Okay. Yeah, I need to figure that out. I will do better next time, but Hey, it was our
Otherwise,
first time.
people are watching the stream going, "Who are these two guys?
Yeah, who are they? Oh, that's right.
Who are they? They look familiar. Are they? They look old."
So and GM Cody, thank you very much for dropping by. I'm a big fan. I really, really have learned a lot just watching your games. And yeah, that one game though, it just absolutely stands out. It's a highlight of that. I just found myself rolling on the floor laughing at your
one
your
captain
doctor.
guy. Oh. That one captain guy, he was getting on my nerves.
But I liked.
He just sat there and said. He just gave orders, just staring straight ahead.
He did, but like, then I think I realized at one point because he slipped up once and he wasn't like that. I'm like, oh, he's actually role playing like that.
Yeah. At first, I thought, is that how he really is?
And the same thing with the security guy. And I was like, okay, the security. But then no, the security guy's actually in character. That is his character. Yeah. And the more I watched, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Why can't we have this in every session? That's what I want. So the names won't display if a comment is okay. Oh, there we go. There's the names.
Dun, right.
So we're good. We're good. I do appreciate all of you for joining in. Very big thanks to you, Shauner, for coming on. I appreciate that and such short notice. And I appreciate
I saw the
conversation.
Bad signal. So I
have
to come in this.
I sent out the bat signal and people responded, and I do have to thank Shauner. His book was really helpful for me as I was exploring these ideas, and I really appreciate what you're trying to do. And I know you get a lot of negative feedback, but
why I wrote the book though. I wrote it so I wouldn't have to explain how I role play in every stream I go into.
That's right.
I got tired of telling everyone over and over again.
Yeah.
So that, I'm going to write a book. I'll just write a book.
I think it's good. I look forward to the next iteration, the next volume.
Me too. I'm doing the new AI artwork for it right now.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds great. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to try to figure out how to end the stream. And and thanks for watching for, just over an hour and a half. That was great. Okay. We'll have to do it again sometime.
At the top right, it says something like end
stream. Yeah, there it is. I got it. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one.
See you later.